Alright, it is a Tuesday, 9:13 a.m. and there was no trading yesterday on the 6th because that was Labor Day. This is the main watch list. Nothing really too ideal. I've been checking with Charles Schwab to see which trades I can take, which tickers are tradable, which ones are not tradable because of that, pink no information regulation that's going to be coming up already in effect here with Charles Schwab. CUBV, I guess in theory this one, if it were to do some kind of a return, that would be kind of nice to trade. Maybe if it breaks right there, honestly, at this 164 level and it has good volume. None of these really are ideal setups or setups that I'm really good at, except for morning panic bounce plays, which will be the case here with PBYA. If it does a nice morning panic bounce play with decent volume, a nice percent drop, that would be nice. SWRM, in theory, maybe this thing could continue. It had a disgusting red price action the previous day. Maybe if it tries to come back, sure, but none of these are, again, really setups that I like too much. What I really like are morning panic bounce plays. TGGI, maybe if it does a super clean morning panic bounce play, I'll consider it, but this one is a bit sketchy because it's a sub penny stock and it hasn't really had like 3 consistent green candles in a row, if you want to count this perhaps, but this is in theory a new range, so it's not really the same. This one is a bit sketchy. It's just like a stocks to trade breaking news alert about their NFT division or whatever. So if this thing decides to have a morning spike with news or something, I might consider it. Other than that one is just probably going to be removed. CYAP ideally can continue a follow-up spike. I'm not going to try to morning panic bounce play a stock that only had one day that was like, half of it was a wick at this point. So that's really all I have right now. Nothing too ideal in terms of listed stocks. Just in theory, AMC could be interesting because it looks like it's trying to hold this 42 level. So in theory, it's trying to hold and maybe do like a potential breakout, but that might be days ahead from today if it even decides to or tries to make a move like that. That's really all I have at the moment. Alright, it is 9:36. I haven't traded anything, but I want to go over the not too ideal morning panic bounce plays. PBYA, this one had this drop right here. It got lower. I could have bought at 146, risking 145 breaking. I don't like this one because VWAP was right here at 15, not very far from the bottom. On top of that, it did have like a spike right here that it immediately got sold into, but sure, in theory I could have been in at 146. Just a tiny, I think I was in, maybe, yeah, well, I wasn't in it, but in theory, $400, just a $400 trade, I'd be up $12 tiny. It's just not really the best right now, this time period for morning panic bounce plays. TGGI, this one worked better, but this one would have been even sketchier for me to consider because it doesn't have like a really nice ideal run up that I want to see in a lot of these morning panic bounce plays. And maybe I would have even cut losses quickly, because maybe I would have been in here and I'm risking off of this level breaking 6.5, or maybe after it does that I would be in it, who knows. But this one was worse because VWAP is a lot closer, if you ask me. I mean, 6.5 is right here, 6.9 is right there, VWAP is just right there, but it is trying to do a nice run up. We do have some people on the bid that could support it and make it do something really cool. But yeah, PBYA at its worst maybe was down like 7 or 8%, and I don't see anything else that I'm really too interested in. As in for the NFT news, this one has been stuck at 20. I don't know if it's just because it doesn't trade very much, so it's just sitting there doing nothing. And the other one that had news, this one moved a little more, but that's all it's done, so I'll remove them. Maybe they'll make some kind of price action, that is interesting, but right now it's just nothing. I'll just keep looking at these. There's really no setups in that sense. I'll just keep looking. Alright, it is 9:53. Had one trade here with this is an actual trade, MGUY. All of these other ones were just tiny sub penny, you know, buy attempts with small size to see if in theory it's something I can trade with Charles Schwab. This was the setup right here, and in theory I should have went for the dip towards VWAP, but I missed the turnaround here. I did see it when it was uptrending. This was a stocks to trade breaking news alert, just showing that, you know, somebody just alerted, one of the main guys alerted that this thing is up, and then he found out it was some kind of restructuring with their share count, I believe, and it's a low float penny stock, so pretty sketchy looking. But I could have went again for that VWAP dip buy, but I did not. Again, I wasn't there for it when it happened, but I did get in at 949 right here, and that was an entry at 244. I got in right here because it looked like it was just about to break out. And in theory, in this type of setup, I'm not really good at high day breakouts. I'm obviously, you know, I like morning pain and bounce ways the best, but I have to, you know, just try to gain experience. But my idea here was to sell the moment. It looks like somebody's ringing the door. I'll make an update later. Alright, I'm back. So the idea is that I was gonna consider this, right, and because of the way OTCs are, I was really interested in selling the first time it makes a red candle. And so again, my entry was here at 244, and it did get as high as 644. What is the very high? The very high, it looks like, was 265, and I sold in this candle because it was looking like it was gonna form a red candle before it actually formed and closed red. I did sell at this price right here at 625. That was actually a pretty good exit, and it could continue an uptrend. It could be like a yo-yo, just bouncing back and forth, although I see right now a head and shoulders. If this 2511 level, or this 25, what is it, yeah, this 25 level doesn't, you know, get taken out, if it decides to top here, this could be a head and shoulders. I'm not interested in dip towards VWAP anymore. It would have been like the first dip towards VWAP right here. I did go for the breakout setup, and that was actually a percent gain, a nice percent gain, although I mean 18 to 26, that would have been killer, but it looks like maybe it could have been possible for the turnaround there. I don't know, but that was a 7% gain. I did trade a small size because, you know, it's a high day breakouts. I'm not too experienced with setups like that. This is a low flow stock, and I have been, you know, burned trading high day breakouts setups that failed with listed stocks. This one clearly worked. Even though it was a little tiny run up, it could have went much higher. It's already up 300% on the day. And there was another setup. I didn't trade this one. MTRT was a breakout at 5. I could have been maybe in at 511 or something, but I didn't push myself to trade this one because I can't trade this on Schwab because it's part of that, whatever you call it, rule. Let me make sure, actually. I mean, it's too late now, but right, if I have a sub penny order here, yeah, this thing is not tradable, and it doesn't. If it was, it would show up here that I have a pending order. I can't trade this. In theory, this was a nice breakout, also a breakout over these highs right here, 546. If it can manage to keep going, that would be pretty impressive too for this one. But like I said, I can't trade this one, just out of curiosity. AMC is trying an uptrend. This one's looking kind of nice too. I'd be more scared to trade something like this, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm happy to have that trade, that I pushed myself to trade something a bit out of my expertise, but that's how, you know, in theory anybody learns, is just by practicing. That's all I got for right now. I guess I'll be looking at AMC. Nice move with MTRT. I just can't trade that one, and I think this one didn't work out, but I was looking at DRNG for a dip towards VWAP, it never dipped towards VWAP, and the dip it had here was nice and gradual. I wouldn't have likely have traded something like that, although it's doing nice. Is up 10% from this level right here. It's just a sketchy sub penny, so that's all I have for right now. Alright, it is 10:58 a.m. and I want to make an update. Now, I did stop looking at the markets after that last video was recorded, and that is probably my fault. It did do a head and shoulders here, but sometimes when I have like a gain, I just don't want to let it get to my head. I don't want to get in a trade that I think looks really nice after I just had that winning trade, and you know, I'm scared that I just like let it get to my head and I try going on a winning streak or something crazy, and then look at a setup that's not really as nice as what it actually is. So then I, you know, do something that wasn't really that good of a setup, or maybe a loss, and then I'm just, you know, try not to let it get to my head, thinking, what if, you know, this setup I'm looking at now is just me trying to get back my losses. I just need to find a middle ground, and I guess take trades just one step at a time. It did do that inverse head and shoulders here with MGUY. I wouldn't have really have considered this dip here because it was under VWAP. Even if it was holding its lows right there, I guess making higher lows right here, that is kind of interesting, but I probably wouldn't have traded any of this until maybe that breakout right here. Maybe I would have been stuck in this wick thinking, oh, I just got in this stupid fake out breakout, just like the NASDAQ listed plays I did last week. But it is different with OTCs. It did hold the high almost perfectly, you know, at 26, and that was kind of like a confirmed breakout. I don't like it too much. I mean, I guess it's not that bad. It actually has some nice range where it breaks 26, it gets to 31, and then it doesn't get as low as 26, but it gets as low as 28. It held 28, and then the follow-up breakout, that would have been kind of nice. But this thing trades a bit more gradual. I would have liked something more clean looking. It's not that bad, honestly. It could have like sketchy wicks, so you know, in that sense, it really isn't that bad. And now it's as high as 39, which is nice. I think I could have pushed myself to consider a trade here. My fear is that I would have done something like that and I wouldn't have traded it as well, and then I'm all salty because, you know, I just got rid of some of the profits for today. So I probably just need to get all of that out of my head at the, you know, really to summarize it all, I'm really not even trading large size to be thinking that way, but that's a nice move at 41. That's the first time I think I've seen something really nice with an OTC in terms of the something alerted from Sykes to trade breaking news, which is pretty cool. You know, maybe if I traded a larger size, or maybe traded a follow-up breakout and maybe became profitable with that as well. Now at 45, which is pretty much a double, pretty close to a double for my entry. It just needs to get to 50, and this thing has a tiny float. That thing is super impressive in that sense. Yeah, I wonder if this thing has had any other price action. Looks like it does show signs that it can top and just fall off a cliff right afterwards. But now that it has that debt restructuring or whatever you want to call it, that could mean something. It did have this sketchy wick day. I don't know if that's real or not, but I'd say this is pretty impressive. Really impressive. LKNCY, I did learn. Just maybe an older version of me would have attempted this breakout, but I didn't trade it because I've learned in terms of setups like this where it could maybe break out a day high. I'm not saying this one can't today, but for something like that to happen, there really needs to be a nice big volume. You know, not just good price action, it needs to be volume too, and we're just not really having it. At least the chances that it breaks out is less likely, because I feel like the volume should be maybe double what it is for it to do something like that. TGGI is dead to me, as well as PBYA. CYAP is also dead. It's really just looking at MGUY. LKNCY not really, and then there's this other one. FRTN seems interesting too, but this one might die off at some point. I'm probably gonna go ahead and go to the garage and start working on other stuff, but that's pretty nice to see something like this. I'll be watching stocks to trade breaking news. If I can get more setups from there, that will be really cool. That's all I have for right now. Alright, it is a 9:30 p.m. I had a lot of work to catch up with, and I have not really been able to do too much besides that. And now that I finished and have some extra time, I want to go over the trades. I only had one trade here. These were all just little attempts to see if orders would go through or not, and this was my trade with MGUY. It actually doesn't even look like much considering how much this thing just moved. It was super impressive. Let me get rid of extended hours. Let's keep the previous close line, although it does not show anything in this type of chart because the previous close was at 6 pennies. Anyway, very nice move. Really the first, I mean, in theory, if I trade a larger size and I keep getting better, I think it's very much worth stocks to trade breaking news. I think they alerted it very early on in, I think they alerted it when it was in the 20s, right? And this thing was pretty much almost a double. Anyway, the setup here was at 9.49. I could have went for the dip towards VWAP, so clearly this thing was alerted, at least at this time when I could have been in. Maybe, I guess it was around, I don't know, just somewhere pretty early on. And I hope we can see more of these. There were, I forgot, 2 other ones that just didn't work. They didn't, yeah, like WCIG. You kind of have to wait to see how the volume works and everything. Actually, this one did pick up later in the day. It broke even the day high right here later in the day around 2. This would have been a hard buy, but this one actually ran up to 57. So these were some alerted by stocks to trade breaking news. I don't remember the other one. I don't think it was CYAP. It might have been INND. Alright, this one didn't move very much, but actually I'm kind of surprised to see WCID. In theory, could have been a move. I mean, maybe not. Yeah, no, it's a higher price OTC. That could have actually been a lot of opportunity to trade something like this, especially the breakout, which I tried with MGUY, and it did break out just a little bit. My theory with that kind of setup back here at 9.49, which was right here, this little breakout attempt I was in at 24.4. So basically 24.4 right here, and I saw that 2.625. So basically almost right where I have it right there. It was just an attempted higher day breakout after it dipped towards VWAP. It would have been super profitable, even with a tiny $200 position. Just trying setups that I'm not really too comfortable with. Just buying the freaking dip at VWAP. Risking VWAP breaking, which it did not break, and it did get as high as 26. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Really impressive. And my sell again was right in this candle because it looks like it was going to top and form a red candle. And my theory with this kind of setup, with something I don't have again that much experience with, is to sell when a red candle forms. In this case, I sold before it formed, but it was pretty much going to close red, and it did. And it did do a downtrend. It did like this head and shoulders thing. I think in the future I might consider this. I've seen this before, where this would have been very hard for me to trade a high day breakouts, but when it started to trade here and it kind of held this level at 28, this is something that in the future I will consider if I can see something like this happen again, even though it's a little off from the highs. Right, this could be something that could allow me to get in a trade and have a clear risk level, especially if it doesn't trade too wicky. It did have one wick here, but all of these candles did not have a wick below it, and it did do a nice move from that 28 freaking 49 level. So that was pretty nice. Nothing else I really would have traded the rest of the day. I'm not just going to randomly trade any dips or something. It did fail, but that was a pretty nice one. PBY closed not as low as it was. I missed the setup in theory here, but this wasn't really a good setup. It was kind of crappy. LKNCY is trying to break out but it didn't do it today. It could have, but the volume just wasn't there. Maybe tomorrow I can try something like this. That's totally possible, especially if it gets news or something like that. TGGI, this one actually is continuing the breakout, you know, over this level, but it's all choppy. That's all I got. I'm gonna call it off right here. Just had that one trade, and that was a nice percent gain. Not a large size, but I think a good attempt. I could have done that follow-up high day breakout. That's all I got. Just really happy to have a trade here. No morning panic bounce way setups, which I feel like I do best, but I have to keep grinding. I have to keep working and trying other setups. You know, I can't just stick with one setup and only have one setup. I have to get good at multiple setups. At least that's what I think right now.